I'm live. It is Sunday, the 15th of June, Father's Day here, and I'm on chapter 5 of The Last Barrier, a book by Reshad Feilds. It says here, A Sufi Journey. He is in Turkey. It was published 1976, and I'm starting the 5th chapter herewith. A quote from Rumi. Behind every, O Lord, of thine are 1,000 here am eyes. Another one. Soul receives from soul that knowledge, therefore not by book nor from tongue. If knowledge of mysteries come after emptiness of mind, that is illumination of heart. The next morning, as usual, I went to Hamid's room at 7 o'clock, but he was fast asleep. In fact, he was snoring, a deep rumble from beneath the bedclothes. The room was littered with books and papers, and I guessed that he had been up most of the night. Just by his bed, a pile of papers, more neatly stacked than the rest, caught my attention. The heading on the first sheet was The Way of Service and Surrender, a treatise on the 13th century Sufi mysteries. And the heading was a quote. The earth and the sand are burning. Put your face on the burning sand and on the earth of the road, since all those who are wounded by love must have the imprint on their face, and the scar must be seen. Let the scar of the heart be seen, for their scars are known, the men who are in the way of love. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. Not for the first time I wondered about Hamid. Apart from the evenings I had spent with him in his London apartment, his life was a secret. Sometimes I tried to probe for information, but he would always lead the conversation away, indicating that his life was his life, and that it was not for me to ask questions. His insistence on privacy was so great that I really had no idea who he was. Was Hamid a dervish, I wondered. The papers stacked beside his bed intrigued me, and I bent down to have a look. The rumbling snore still emerged from beneath the covers, and although I knew that I was invading his privacy, the temptation was too great to be denied. I was just about to pick up the top sheet of paper when Hamid woke up. For a moment he did not notice that I was there. Then, seeing me bending over the papers, he sat bolt upright in bed, his face contorted in anger. What are you doing here? Have you learned nothing? You come into my room without permission, and you have the gall to look through my things. What else have you done? What else have you been looking at? Go on, tell me. I assured him that I had been in his room for only seconds, and that I had not touched anything else. I stammered that I had not wanted to wake him, but since he had told me to be there at the usual time, I hadn't known what to do, whether to go on or to stay. I felt physically ill with fright and shame. Enough, he interrupted my explanation. You have made a bad mistake, and ordinarily I would throw you out of my house. In our tradition it is necessary to be scrupulously honest, and to respect the dignity of the human being more than anything else. You are young, untrained and British, and for that you have been allowed to make several mistakes. But now you must learn. From now on you will not enter my room without first obtaining permission, and you will not ask questions unless you are invited. If you're careful, and if you act properly, then we can continue together. If not, I will find someone else. You're not important, you know. You may be a useful vehicle, but you can be replaced very easily. It's understood. Now go and make coffee and breakfast and leave me alone until I call you. I'm sorry, Hamid, I said. Please forgive me. Out, he shouted. No time for sentimental nonsense here. We have work to do, and if you wish to learn, then you get on with it, and not carry on about old mistakes. It was right that you said you are very sorry, but do not expect pity. As I made the coffee, I realized that I had indeed sought pity, instead of being able to simply apologize and to know that the moment had already passed. About half an hour later, I heard Hamid shout from his room. Come, he ordered, and bring the coffee with you. His hair was still wet from the shower, and he welcomed me as though nothing had happened. Well, he asked, what have you learned? The question was so unexpected that I had no reply ready. He had done this often before, and each time I fell into the trap. He would allow me to have some concept of what was going to happen next, and just when I felt at ease with the situation, he would come up with a statement or an action that destroyed any continuity of understanding. Once in London I'd asked him about this. He had replied, to come upon the way it is necessary to break the clock. You must destroy your pattern of comparisons. I was silent for some minutes, trying to come up with an answer that would please him. I don't know how to answer you, I began. I've only just arrived, and so far I've been so disorientated that I don't know what I've learned. It is so new, all so new. Perhaps it will take a few days before things have sunk in enough for me to be able to answer the question. Nonsense, he said. You are just stubborn and lazy. If you would only listen and trust, you would be able to answer me. Surely you must have learned something. He accented the last word and bent forward, looking at me hard between the eyes. Well? I've learned that I really know nothing, and that only now am I at the beginning of the journey. Before this moment, everything has been just preparation. Everything is always preparation, he said. So that is no answer. We are preparing now for the world to come. But when it will come is in the hands of God, not in your hands. We must always be in a state of preparation. Preparation is the art of staying awake. If you are awake, then one day you may see into the real world. You cannot expect to come into that world if you walk around like a sleepwalker in a dream. Nearly all the world is asleep, but they do not know it. You cannot wake up by reading books that tell you you are asleep. You may not even wake up just because a teacher tells you that you are asleep. You can only wake up if you want to, and to begin to work on yourself, to cut away all the rubbish in order to come upon the nature of who you and what you are. Waking up is not a question of some supernormal experience either. I have met many people who call themselves psychics, who are even more asleep than those who know nothing at all about these things. These deluded people think that if they can contact some sort of guide, they are excused from doing any work on themselves. They merely cover up their own pain with yet another set of illusions. The only thing to be done is to come to know the unity of God. Then everything is given. If you try to find pieces of Him, aspects of the one reality, then you are caught in the pieces. And where's the unity? If you stop on the journey to admire the flowers, you may forget the object of the search, and instead remain with the flowers. Certainly they are beautiful, but what do you want? Always observe your own motives most carefully. Look closely at what you are doing and why you are doing it. Search incessantly for your true nature, but not for yourself. Do you understand? I was listening and I felt I did not understand at least some of what he said. I did understand at least some of what he said. If you try to develop the self, whose existence you do not truly know, then you are developing an illusion. Only when you work on yourself for something greater than the mind understands can it be said that you are doing anything useful or constructive at all. I explained my feelings to Hamid. He seemed pleased and said, "Ah," several times, finally interrupted me to ask, "Did you really enjoy the olives?" Once more I was taken off guard. "Why, yes," I said, confused. "I told you last night how good I thought they were, and asked you to tell me how to make them so I could fix some myself. But you didn't truly enjoy them if you didn't understand them. Did you understand them?" What could he mean, understand them? They were wonderful olives, certainly, but how can you understand an olive? I searched desperately for an answer while Hamid sat watching me impassively sipping his coffee. At last, looking exasperated, he said, "You are not so completely stupid as to think I was talking just about the olives, are you? Do you really imagine, after all this time and after all the things I've said to you, that I would waste my time just talking about olives? Sometimes I despair of you. Listen, for God's sake. You are here to learn, so go and clean out your ears and stay awake. Any story that I can tell you can be understood on many levels. If you were just on the level to hear how to make good olives, that is one thing. But you should be able to go beyond that, and anyway, I would not have told the story unless I knew that you could understand. Now listen carefully. The salt that preserved the olives in their sacks is the conditioning of your life. It must be washed away before any true work can be done. In order to obtain the best results, you must choose the best olives of the finest quality. The olives may be seen as the many aspects of yourself, or each olive could be said to be one person who is potentially useful to the work. They say that many are called, but few are chosen. The jar, which must be carefully cleaned in all ways, is either your body or the space occupied by you, or the group. Water takes on the color of the vessel that contains it. And we want this water to be as clear as a mountain stream. That is why the ritual washing is so important. But we have already talked about this. The olives are very delicate after the cleaning away of the preservative, so they are placed into a jar carefully and with loving kindness and, of course, awareness. Next comes the boiling water. That is the first baptism, the baptism with water. It is a total immersion, which is, in one sense, in the relative world, very painful. You must understand that this path requires conscious suffering. Remember that the rose bush can produce a perfect rose only through correct pruning. The pruning may hurt the plant temporarily, but if the plant were able to understand the necessity, then it would be filled with joy each time the gardener came with a knife. If we enter this path, then we must recognize the necessity of the suffering. The water is left in the jar only long enough for the olives to swell. The skin must not break, for if one olive spoils, the others will be ruined. The cook must know how long the water should remain in the jar and at what temperature. Now the cook adds lemon and mint, such a good blend of flavors. You should try it with roast lamb, delicious. It is a perfect blend of acid and alkaline, positive and negative, yin and yang. With the final addition of olive oil, the olives come into balance. This last part of the operation is the second baptism. It is the baptism of the Spirit, the essence of the olives themselves. This is alchemy, you see, and it is a great riddle. You must add something to the melting pot, the cauldron. That is the very essence of what you are cooking. Then you screw the lid on tight and leave it for 40 days and 40 nights, the length of time necessary for certain aspects of the creative process to take place. At the end of that time, everything should be in balance and blended nicely together. The lemon and the mint will have blended with the olive oil and the flavors of the flesh of the olives, and the oil mixed with the other ingredients will have become as one. So the cycle is complete, and everything is returned to its source. Then he smiled at me, acknowledging my amazement. You see, it is necessary to look behind the apparency of things. There are indeed some real cooks in the world, and if you could eat the food that they have prepared, you would receive all that is necessary for the growth of the unawakened man into the man who sees with the eyes of the universe and hears with the ears of the winds and touches with the hands of God. I put on a break here and continue chapter 5